Joined here on the show by Zandt County DA Tonda Curry. DA Curry, good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Thank you for joining us here on the show this afternoon. We're talking about, of course, the Zandt County Fentanyl Task Force that was formed earlier in the week after the overdose of a 13-year-old Wills Point ISD student. So can you explain for our viewers just the overall kind of the goal of the task force itself?
The goal of the task force is to eradicate fentanyl in Zandt County. Our plan is to take the information we receive about fentanyl in schools or fentanyl being sold to children on or off campus, take that information, trace it back to the source, get at the people who are actually selling to the children.
Now, outside of this one incident with this 13-year-old student from Wills Point, are there other incidences of fentanyl in Zandt County schools?
Oh, yes. Unfortunately, yes.
And how long has that been an issue there?
Well, it first came to our attention in schools about a month ago.
And as far as the incidents in that situation, was it still like ingestion or just trafficking, or like what was the specifics in that case?
It was selling from one student to another.
So as far as the task force itself, what agencies are involved with it?
Pretty much all of the law enforcement agencies in Zandt County, the Sheriff's Office, Canton Police Department, Wills Point Police Department, Grand Saline Police Department, Van Police Department, all of our constables, the Texas Department of Public Safety has committed to help us as well. All of law enforcement in Zandt County.
Now, going back to this arrest a month ago about the trafficking from one student to another, were there arrests made in that case?
Well, when it's a juvenile, you don't make arrests. The juvenile system is kind of a hybrid system, a hybrid criminal civil system. So you don't really make arrests in the juvenile system, but there are ways that you address it, yes.
And was that addressing of it, did that lead to other investigations? Did you find the supplier for that student?
Absolutely.
And were there arrests made in that case?
Not yet. There are warrants.
Okay. So I guess the next question is, of course, Wills Point ISD stressed in a letter to parents yesterday that the 13-year-old boy who overdosed did not ingest or purchase the laced drug on school grounds. But like you mentioned, of course, you found it in schools about a month ago. How prevalent or widespread do you find the problem to be?
Well, from what we know about amongst our teens and youth, not very prevalent yet. And that's why we are attacking it as soon as we learned of it to try to make sure that it doesn't spread.
And can you tell us about which campuses these drugs have been found on?
Not going to go there yet.
Just for curiosity, like any particular reason why not?
Well, we don't want to tip our hand as to what we do know and what we don't know, because, like we said just a moment ago, we know of the incidences we found, but there are more than likely others. So we don't want the people who are supplying to know which ones we have found and which ones we haven't. We're going to wait for them to make a mistake so that we can jump on that as well.
Now, a lot of parents, of course, heard about this for the first time with your press conference earlier in the week. So to those parents who are concerned or who are scared, with that information, of course, that you just mentioned in play, what would you tell those parents who would like to know more about what's going on in their child's school?
Be involved. Be involved. That is the first line of defense against protecting your child. Be involved in your child's life. Be involved in your school. Parents should be nosy. Parents are allowed to be nosy. Know what your kids are doing. Check their social media. Check their cell phones and devices. Know who they're talking to. Know where they're going. Be involved.
So to that end, we've seen reports about other drugs like marijuana and such being trafficked on things like Snapchat or Instagram. Is that kind of being the case here, or can you go into that?
Oh yes, that's how children and teens, that's how they communicate.
Now, of course, you made an arrest in the case of this 13-year-old who overdosed. Can you tell us more about the person that was arrested in that case?
I don't have those details with me where I am right now. I'm sorry.
Was
I
it
can,
just, oh, go ahead.
I can get you a name.
Yes, please do. And was it just one arrest, or was there the first of many? Like, will there be more to come in this case?
First of many, yes. When we executed the search warrants at the home that the fentanyl came from, there's one person arrested. There were more that we were looking for, and we will find them.
Now, as far as you mentioned the case a month ago, where two juveniles selling one to another, do you have any reason to believe that that case is connected to this case in a very direct way, or no?
We believe that it is not. We know that it was two separate certificates.
Now, a broader picture, I suppose. Yesterday, Governor Abbott announced an initiative to kind of roll out Narcan supplies to pretty much every county sheriff's office across the entire state of Texas, right? So has Zandt County already started the process to get their allocation of Narcan?
Zandt County already has Narcan, and our first responders there.
But even beyond what you already have you begun the process to get that allocation from the state?
Oh, absolutely, yes, yes. And there have been other grants and programs that we have been aware of before the governor's program yesterday. Obviously, we appreciate this program and we will take advantage of it. But there have been others before that yesterday that have allowed us to acquire it for our first responders. Now, and keep in mind, Narcan isn't just for fentanyl. Narcan is for any opioid. So it's been being used for overdoses already.
And can you talk about just the training protocols that go into place to get the Narcan in place for officers or maybe school officials who use it?
Sure, they receive the appropriate training on how to administer the Narcan, and that training is updated regularly as the use of Narcan and the available methods of dispensing it in an emergency as they can.
Now, you know, obviously you're the Zandt County DA and your task force is a Zandt County task force, but have you heard from other counties, other school districts kind of surrounding your area that are working with you because they're having the same problems in their areas?
Absolutely. Around here in East Texas, we're very lucky that we have law enforcement agencies that work together. One of the cases that we've been working on already, we have joined up with neighboring counties and shared information, work together to eradicate this problem. It doesn't do any good. I mean, children are children. If we push them out of Zandt County into a neighboring county, I don't want to do that to those kids either. So, yeah, it's very important that we work together in this.
I guess just some final thoughts here. What is the overall scope of this task force? What are they authorized to be able to do in their efforts here? And at what point would you call it mission accomplished?
Well, I'll call it mission accomplished, and we don't have any more fentanyl in Zandt County. But the scope of the task force, they have all of their law enforcement powers that's granted to them by the state to be a law enforcement officer. But having the task force takes away any jurisdictional limits. It also takes away any compartmentalization where the information that one agency has gathered doesn't remain in that agency. It's shared with all of the others. And keep in mind that our agencies here are generally small. Each agency may only have 1 to 2 actual narcotics officers. But when we create this task force and bring them all together, that gives us a force of 10 or 12 instead of 1 or 2. It also means that the chiefs of these various agencies have said to us, yes, my guy is available. It may not be his regular shift time. He may have other responsibilities in the city or in the county, but when we need him to eradicate fentanyl, he is available and he will do it.
Well, DA Curry, thanks much for your time this afternoon. We look forward to talking to you again as this operation continues. Again, have a great Friday. We'll talk to you soon.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you so much. Again, that was Zandt County DA Tonda Curry discussing the newly formed Zandt County Fentanyl Task Force. The arrests they've already made, some previous cases, fentanyl, at least distribution, trafficking in Zandt County schools, and what the overall